The nobles were still laughing when the first royal wolf lowered his head to the unwanted Omega. Snow drifted across the marble courtyard of Verhold's citadel, soft as ash beneath the pale winter sun. Silver banners snapped in the mountain wind. Bells rang from the northern tower, deep and ceremonial, while the scent of pine smoke, cold stone, and spiced wine moved through hundreds of gathered wolves. Elowen Reed stood alone, near the bottom of the royal steps. Her simple gray cloak looked painfully plain beside the jeweled gowns surrounding her. A strand of brown hair had escaped her braid, and one stubborn piece of wolf fur clung to her sleeve. Lady Seraphine Dacre noticed it first. "Still sleeping in the kennels, Elowen?" A few nobles laughed. Elowen quietly brushed at the fur. "Only when someone needs me." Seraphine smiled. "And apparently no one else does." The laughter became louder. Elowen's fingers tightened around the small leather pouch at her waist. Inside were dried thyme, clean bandages, and a piece of honey cake she had promised an old wolf before leaving for the ceremony. She had heard worse. Unwanted. Wolfless. Kennel Omega. The words had followed her for years. So she lowered her eyes and waited for the moment to pass. High above the courtyard, Alpha King Cassian Veyr watched from his black stone throne. He had ruled 13 packs without fear. Yet the instant the winter wind shifted, something inside him went strangely still. Pear. Warm honey. Rain-soaked thyme. Cassian's hand tightened against the arm of his throne. His wolf, restless for years, suddenly stopped pacing beneath his skin. Safe. The word brushed through his mind so softly that Cassian almost believed he imagined it. Then the iron gates opened. 50 royal guard wolves entered the courtyard. They were enormous creatures, scarred from old wars, their coats ranging from silver to charcoal black. Heavy ceremonial collars rested around their necks. The crowd fell silent. Elowen lifted her head. One gray wolf near the front stopped walking. Its torn left ear twitched. Elowen's breath caught. "No," she whispered. The wolf stared at her. She knew those eyes. Old Grumble? Several nobles laughed again. The gray wolf stepped out of formation. A guard reached for its chain. The wolf ignored him. It walked directly toward Elowen. Then, before the entire kingdom, the massive royal wolf slowly lowered itself onto its front legs. It bowed. The laughter died. A second wolf followed. Then a third. 5, 10, 20. One after another, 50 of the kingdom's most feared wolves turned toward the quiet Omega everyone had mocked. And Knelt. Elowen stared at them, unable to breathe. Behind her, someone dropped a silver goblet. It struck the stone with a sharp clang. Cassian rose from his throne. Seraphine immediately straightened her gown. For one hopeful second, she believed the Alpha King was walking toward her. He passed her without looking. He passed the council. He passed every noble family waiting for his attention. Then he stopped directly in front of Elowen. His silver-gold eyes dropped to the black strand of wolf fur still caught on her sleeve. Something dangerous and deeply familiar moved across his face. "Elowen Reed," he said quietly. She looked up. Cassian's wolf surged beneath his skin. "Mine." His gaze darkened. "Where?" The Alpha King asked. "Did you get that fur?" 3 weeks earlier, Elowen Reed had been arguing with a wolf about honey cake. "You already had breakfast." The enormous gray wolf lying beside the stone hearth lifted his scarred head and stared at her. Elowen folded her arms. "That expression might frighten soldiers, old Grumble, but it does not work on me." One torn ear twitched. Outside the Royal Winter Kennels, snow fell steadily across the pine-covered hills surrounding Verhold's citadel. Wind whispered beneath the wooden eaves, carrying the clean scent of frost and cedar through narrow cracks in the walls. Inside, everything felt warmer. Lantern light glowed amber against stone. Fresh hay filled the stalls, broth simmered over a small iron stove, and the air carried rosemary, dried thyme, old leather, and 50 different traces of wolf. Elowen loved mornings like this. The palace rarely remembered the kennels existed. She preferred it that way. Royal nobles saw this place as somewhere old war wolves were sent when they stopped being useful. Elowen saw something different. She saw aching joints, nightmares, loneliness, and creatures who deserved kindness even when they could no longer earn it. She broke a small piece from the honey cake. Old Grumble immediately stood. "You are shameless." His tail moved once. Elowen sighed and handed it over. I am encouraging terrible behavior. A younger silver wolf watched from the next enclosure. No. Elowen pointed at him. You had 2 pieces yesterday. The silver wolf turned away with exaggerated disappointment. Elowen laughed. It was a quiet sound, but several wolves lifted their heads when they heard it. No one outside the kennels would have believed that. According to everyone else, these wolves were damaged, dangerous, empty. Some had spent years unable to shift back into human form. Others reacted violently to touch or certain sounds. Several healers had eventually stopped trying. Elowen never had. She remembered which wolf disliked thunder, which one needed warm cloth wrapped around his hind leg, which one would only eat if she sat nearby. She had even named them when the identification numbers on their collars felt too cold. Old Grumble, Three Toes, Blue Ear, Captain Mud. None of the names were particularly dignified. The wolves seemed to forgive her. Most days. By late afternoon, the snow became heavier. Elowen finished changing bandages and carried fresh blankets toward the final stall when voices approached from outside. Lady Seraphine Dacre entered with 3 attendants behind her. Her pale blue cloak was trimmed with white fox fur, untouched by dirt or hay. Her nose wrinkled immediately. What a smell! Elowen lowered her head politely. My lady. Seraphine's gaze moved across the kennels before settling on Elowen's faded brown dress. So this is where they keep you. Elowen said nothing. Seraphine smiled. I heard the mating registry was updated. Elowen's hand tightened around the blanket. Apparently, everyone had heard. Her name had been removed again. No family had volunteered to sponsor an Omega whose wolf had never fully shifted. Seraphine stepped closer. How unfortunate. Elowen met her gaze. I'll survive. Something briefly hardened behind Seraphine's smile. You always do. She glanced toward Old Grumble. Perhaps that is why you fit here so well. Elowen already knew what was coming. The unwanted Omega caring for unwanted wolves. One attendant laughed. Elowen felt the old wound open quietly inside her chest. She had heard the word since she was 16. Unwanted. At first it had made her cry. Later, it made her angry. Now it simply made her tired. Her eyes moved toward the wolves. They served this kingdom. Seraphine shrugged. And now? They're still alive. That was not my question. Elowen's voice remained gentle. It was my answer. Silence settled. Old Grumble rose behind her. A low growl vibrated through the kennel. Seraphine stepped backward. Elowen immediately turned. Enough. The growl stopped. Seraphine stared. For one brief second, fear crossed her face. Then, embarrassment replaced it. You should remember your place. Elowen looked around at the warm stalls, repaired blankets, and scarred creatures watching her. I do. Seraphine left without another word. By nightfall, the storm had swallowed the road to the palace. Elowen should have returned to her small room near the servants' quarters. Instead, she stayed. Thunder rolled beyond the mountains. Blue Ear hated thunder. She sat beside his stall until his trembling eased. Then something struck the outer door. Once. Heavy. Elowen froze. Another scrape followed. She reached for the lantern. Hello? Only wind answered. She opened the door. Snow rushed around her boots. And there, beneath the storm-dark sky, stood the largest wolf she had ever seen. Charcoal black fur covered his enormous frame. Silver marked his chest and muzzle like frost beneath moonlight. His eyes were strange, gold touched with silver. Intelligent. Exhausted. Dangerous. Blood darkened the fur over his left shoulder. Elowen forgot fear almost immediately. Oh. The wolf stared at her. You're hurt. He looked away. Elowen raised an eyebrow. You are much too large to pretend I cannot see that. His ears flattened. Despite herself, she smiled. Excellent. Denial. Very masculine. The wolf's golden-silver eyes returned to her. For some reason, Elowen had the ridiculous feeling he understood every word. Thunder broke across the valley. The black wolf swayed. Elowen's smile vanished. She stepped aside and opened the door wider. All right, giant stranger. Warm light spilled across the snow between them. One night, the wolf looked at her, then at the fire, then back at her. He stepped inside with the calm confidence of a creature who clearly had no intention of asking permission twice. Elowen closed the door against the storm. She did not see the almost hidden royal crest beneath the blood on his foreleg. She did not know that 13 packs bowed to the creature currently dripping snow across her clean floor. And she certainly did not know that before morning, she would give the Alpha King's wolf a name no one else would ever dare use. Storm. By sunrise, Storm had decided the Royal Winter Kennels belonged to him. Elowen discovered this when she returned from the medicine room carrying clean bandages and found the enormous black wolf stretched directly across the warmest patch of floor beside the hearth. You have taken Old Grumble's spot. Storm opened one silver gold eye. Old Grumble sat 3 feet away, looking personally betrayed. Elowen pointed toward an empty blanket. Move. Storm did not. She waited. His tail thumped once. That is not moving. Outside, the storm had passed, leaving Veyr buried beneath white silence. Morning light spilled through the narrow windows, turning dust and loose fur into tiny sparks of gold. The air smelled of cedar smoke, warm broth, and the pear-thyme salve Elowen had prepared for Storm's shoulder. She knelt beside him. The moment her fingers touched the scarred muscles near his wound, his entire body went still. Not tense. Still. As if something inside him had stopped fighting. Elowen noticed. So did Storm. That feels better, doesn't it? His eyes closed. She smiled softly. There. You could have admitted that last night. The wolf huffed. Elowen leaned closer and carefully wrapped the bandage beneath his thick fur. Up close, his scent was stronger. Cheddar. Cold pine. Leather warmed near fire. Something about it made her chest ache strangely. Familiar, though she had never met him before. She pushed the thought aside. By mid-morning, royal guards arrived. 3 men in black armor entered the kennel, their expressions grim. Elowen stood immediately. Can I help you? The tallest guard looked around. We're searching for an animal. Storm's ears twitched. Elowen glanced at him. What kind? The guard hesitated. A large wolf. She looked at Storm again. He looked remarkably innocent for something the size of a horse. Color? Black. Elowen folded her arms. That narrows it down. One guard almost smiled. The taller man did not. Scar on the left shoulder. Elowen's stomach dropped. Storm slowly rose. The guards froze. Not in fear. In recognition. Elowen noticed that, too. Before anyone could speak, a horn sounded from outside. The guards immediately straightened. A carriage had stopped beyond the kennels. Then, the courtyard became silent. Elowen stepped toward the doorway. Alpha King Cassian Veyr descended from the carriage. She had seen him only from great distances before. Now he was close enough for details. Tall, broad-shouldered, dark coat fastened at the throat, with the royal silver crest. His face was calm in the way winter lakes looked calm before breaking beneath your feet. And his eyes. Elowen stopped breathing. Silver gold, exactly like Storm's. Her gaze snapped toward the hearth. Empty. Storm was gone. She had not heard him move. Cassian entered the kennel moments later. Every guard bowed. Elowen did the same. Your Majesty. Cassian's attention settled on her. For several seconds, he said nothing. Then, the wind slipped through the open door. Pear, honey, rain-soaked thyme. His wolf surged beneath his skin. Safe. Home. Cassian's jaw tightened. Elowen felt something strange beneath her ribs at the same moment. A pull. Warm and sudden. She frowned. Cassian noticed. You're Elowen Reed. Her surprise showed. Yes, Your Majesty. I have heard about you. That worried her immediately. Should I apologize? One guard coughed to hide a laugh. Cassian's mouth almost moved. Not yet. He walked deeper into the kennel. His gaze passed over the wolves. Old Grumble stood. Blue Ear lifted his head. 3 toes moved closer to the bars. Cassian slowed. These animals usually reject strangers. Elowen smiled. They reject everyone at first. And you? They tolerate me. Old Grumble pressed his head against her hip. Cassian looked at him. Elowen sighed. Some tolerate me very dramatically. Cassian almost smiled again. Then his gaze landed on the table. A small piece of honey cake sat beside the medical supplies. He stared at it a second too long. Elowen noticed. Would you like some? Cassian's expression became perfectly royal. No. You were staring at it. I was assessing it. For what? A pause. Quality. Elowen blinked, then laughed. It was soft and completely unguarded. Cassian's wolf went quiet again. The sound affected him more than it should have. He looked away first. What exactly do you do for these wolves? Elowen glanced around. Whatever they need. That is not very specific. Neither are wolves. Cassian waited. She continued. Warm compresses. Food. Quiet. Sometimes talking. Talking? They listen better than nobles. One of the guards abruptly looked at the floor. Cassian's eyes sharpened with amusement. And does that work? Elowen looked toward Old Grumble. Sometimes being remembered is enough. The words struck Cassian harder than she knew. He turned toward her. What do you mean? Elowen hesitated, then rested a hand on Old Grumble's neck. Everyone keeps asking what these wolves can still do for the kingdom. Her voice softened. No one asks what the kingdom still owes them. Cassian went very still. For years, he had believed the same question applied to himself. What could he still give? How long could he remain useful? How long before weakness made him replaceable? Elowen had no idea she had touched the wound beneath the crown. Then, Old Grumble shifted suddenly. Elowen reached to steady him. Her hand brushed Cassian's wrist. Heat flashed between them. Sharp, deep, alive. Elowen jerked back. Cassian did not. His wolf rose with one unmistakable word. Mine. Elowen stared at him. Cassian stared back. Neither spoke. That night, Storm returned. Elowen stood beside the hearth when the black wolf entered. She looked into his silver-gold eyes, then remembered the Alpha King. Her expression changed. Storm stopped. Elowen slowly narrowed her eyes. That, she whispered, is very strange. Elowen did not sleep much that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the same two pairs of silver-gold eyes. Storm's, and the Alpha King's. By morning, she had almost convinced herself it was coincidence. Almost. Then Old Grumble changed everything. The kennel was unusually quiet beneath the pale winter light. Snow pressed against the lower windows, and the scent of warm hay mixed with rosemary broth and burning cedar. Elowen carried a bowl toward Old Grumble's stall. Breakfast. The gray wolf did not move. She frowned. Now you're pretending not to hear me? Still nothing. Elowen entered slowly. Old Grumble lay curled against the wall, breathing hard. Concern replaced humor immediately. She knelt. Hey, look at me. His eyes opened. Pain lived there. Not animal pain. Something frightened. Something trapped. Elowen touched his neck. His entire body shuddered. Then his front leg twisted. She pulled back. Bones shifted beneath fur. Not violently. Not completely. But impossibly. For 3 seconds, the paw resting against the floor became a human hand. Scarred fingers curled against the straw. Elowen stopped breathing. Then, the hand became a paw again. Old Grumble whimpered. She stumbled backward. No. Her heart pounded. You're not an animal. The wolf stared at her. Elowen ran for the healers. An hour later, Royal Healer Marwick stood inside the kennel, examining Old Grumble with bored impatience. You were tired. I saw fingers. Muscle spasms. Muscle spasms do not grow fingernails. Marwick sighed. Elowen. She hated the tone more than the words. Gentle. Dismissive. You care deeply for them. Sometimes the mind sees what it hopes to see. Elowen's jaw tightened. I know what I saw. You are a kennel attendant. And you are leaving. Marwick blinked. Elowen pointed toward the door. For once, he obeyed. She remained beside Old Grumble long after he left. By afternoon, another visitor arrived. Cassian Veyr entered without ceremony. Elowen rose quickly. Your Majesty. His gaze went immediately to Old Grumble. What happened? She hesitated. Would you believe me? Cassian looked at her. Yes. The answer came too quickly. Something inside her softened. She explained. Cassian's expression changed only once. When she described the human hand, he stepped into the stall. Old Grumble stiffened. Cassian crouched. For several seconds, King and Wolf stared at one another. Then Cassian whispered a name. Torin. Elowen frowned. Old Grumble froze. Cassian said it again. Commander Torin Vale. The gray wolf's breathing became ragged. His eyes filled with sudden awareness. Elowen looked between them. You know him. Cassian stood slowly. He commanded my northern guard. Her stomach dropped. He died 6 years ago. Cassian's voice turned cold. That is what I was told. Elowen looked around the kennel. At Blue Ear, Three Toes, Captain Mud, every familiar face suddenly became something else. Not abandoned animals. People. Soldiers. Who are they? Cassian's silence answered before his words did. Royal Guard. Elowen stared at him. All of them? Most. Her knees nearly weakened. For 6 years, she had fed them, bandaged them, slept beside them during storms. She had called decorated warriors ridiculous names. Elowen covered her mouth. Oh no. Cassian glanced at her. What? I named him Old Grumble. A strange pause followed. Then Cassian laughed. It was brief. Lone. Almost disbelieving. Elowen stared. You're laughing. I am not. You absolutely are. Cassian looked toward Torin. The wolf appeared deeply offended. That only made it worse. Then, the humor faded. Cassian turned serious. What did you do to help them? Nothing special. Tell me. Warm compresses, thyme oil, food, talking. That cannot be all. Elowen thought. I never chained them during panic episodes. Cassian's eyes sharpened. I called them by name. You did not know their names. No, but I gave them some. A faint smile touched his mouth. And sometimes I stayed until they stopped shaking. Cassian looked around the kennel. 50 broken soldiers. 50 men everyone else had stopped seeing. Then he looked at her. Perhaps the miracle had never been medicine. Perhaps it had been kindness repeated so many times that even poisoned instincts remembered how to trust. A sound came from Torin. Rough. Broken. Almost human. Cassian turned. The gray wolf's body trembled. His jaws moved. One word escaped. Dacre. Silence swallowed the room. Cassian's face became stone. Elowen felt the warmth leave the air. Because High Alpha Garrick Dacre had supervised the Royal Guard supply lines 6 years ago. And for the first time, Cassian understood that his lost soldiers had not disappeared because of war. Someone had wanted them never to come back. By the next morning, the Royal Winter Kennels had become the most dangerous quiet place in Veyr. No one shouted. No guards ran through the halls. No bells warned the palace. Yet every breath inside the stone building carried the weight of one broken word. Dacre. Elowen stood beside Old Grumble Commander Torin now, at least in Cassian's mind, while pale sunlight stretched across the straw. The wolf had not spoken again, but he watched the door, as though he knew someone might come. Cassian noticed. So did Elowen. You think he's afraid? Cassian's gaze stayed on Torin. I think he remembers. Outside, boots crunched across snow. A royal messenger entered, carrying a sealed document. Cassian broke the wax. His expression hardened. What is it? He handed Elowen the paper. She read slowly. Then again. Her stomach sank. The Royal Council had approved an emergency review of the Winter Kennels. Funding suspended. Staff reduced. Animals deemed incapable of military recovery would be relocated within 7 days. Elowen looked up. Relocated where? Cassian said nothing. That silence told her enough. Her fingers tightened around the paper. They're going to kill them. Not while I'm king. She wanted to believe him. But Elowen had spent too many years watching powerful people discover polite words for cruel decisions. Before she could answer, another voice drifted from the doorway. How touching. Lady Seraphine Dacre entered wearing ivory wool and a silver clasp shaped like a crescent moon. Her father followed. High Alpha Garrick Dacre was broad, gray-haired, and calm in the way dangerous men often were when they believed the room already belonged to them. His eyes moved over the wolves. Then Elowen. Then Cassian. Your Majesty? Cassian's voice cooled. Dacre. Garrick smiled. The council acted only in the kingdom's interest. Elowen stepped forward. These wolves are recovering. Seraphine glanced at her. You mean the animals you talked to? Torin spoke yesterday. Garrick's eyes changed. Only for a heartbeat. But Elowen saw it. Cassian did too. Seraphine gave a soft laugh. How convenient. Elowen faced her. I heard him. Of course you did. Seraphine moved closer. Her perfume smelled of white roses and expensive amber. It nearly covered the sharper scent of contempt. Some things are cared for because they matter, Elowen. Her gaze passed over the scarred wolves. Others are simply difficult to throw away. The words landed exactly where she intended. Elowen remained still. Seraphine smiled faintly. The unwanted Omega caring for unwanted wolves. There is something almost poetic about it. Cassian took one step forward. The room changed. His scent deepened. Cedar smoke. Winter pine. Dominance pressed softly through the air. Seraphine's smile disappeared. Elowen Reed is under royal protection. Garrick looked amused. For tending kennels? For assisting in investigation. Cassian's eyes settled on him. Unless you object to discovering what happened to 50 of my soldiers. Garrick's expression remained composed. Not at all, but his sense sharpened with unease. He left with Seraphine soon after. Elowen waited until their footsteps faded. Then she exhaled. I hate that woman. Cassian looked at her. That may be the most aggressive thing I have ever heard you say. I am capable of darkness. His mouth twitched. You fed a mouse from your breakfast yesterday. It looked hungry. Cassian almost smiled. That evening, Elowen began packing, not because Cassian had failed her, because she had learned not to trust promises made above her station. If the council won, she would need somewhere to go. A small bag rested beside her bed. 2 dresses, her mother's scarf, 3 books, nothing more. A scrape sounded at the kennel door. Storm entered. Elowen looked at him. You have terrible timing. The black wolf immediately noticed the bag. His body stiffened. He crossed the room and planted himself directly in front of it. Elowen sighed. Move. Storm did not. Storm. He sat. She tried to step around him. He shifted sideways. Despite everything, she laughed. You cannot imprison me with your enormous backside. Storm looked offended. Elowen sank beside him. For a while, neither moved. Snow whispered against the windows. Firelight warmed his dark fur. Elowen rested her forehead against his neck. I'm not leaving tonight. Storm's breathing slowed. His nose brushed her wrist. Once. Then again. Heat flared beneath her skin. Elowen pulled back. A faint red warmth circled the inside of her wrist. She frowned. Wonderful. Storm watched. Rejected by wolves my whole life, and now I may be allergic to one. His ears flattened. Elowen smiled tiredly. You're very sensitive. Across the bond neither fully understood, Cassian felt the echo of her loneliness. Hours later, he returned to the palace in human form. The royal council was still gathered when he entered. Garrick rose. Your Majesty, we assume the kennel closure will proceed. Cassian removed his gloves. No. Garrick's jaw tightened. On what grounds? Cassian looked directly at him. Mine. Storm returned after midnight. Elowen had been awake beside the kennel hearth, mending a torn blanket while snow tapped softly against the windows. The room smelled of cedar smoke, warm hay, and the pear-thyme salve she had left cooling near the fire. She heard him before she saw him. A heavy scrape. Then, a low, strangled growl. Elowen dropped the needle. Storm? The black wolf staggered through the doorway. Something was wrong. His breathing came too fast. His silver-gold eyes were unfocused, and the muscles along his scarred shoulder trembled violently. Elowen rushed toward him. Easy. Storm backed away. Not from fear. From her. His claws dragged across stone. Storm, look at me. Another growl tore from his chest. This one frightened her. Not because it sounded threatening. Because it sounded painful. A bitter metallic scent suddenly reached her. Elowen froze. Silverthorn. She had smelled traces of it earlier among Torrin's old bandages. Who did this to you? Storm collapsed. Elowen dropped beside him. His body burned beneath her palms. Stay with me. She reached for the salve. Storm's spine arched. Bones shifted beneath fur. Elowen stumbled backward. The transformation was nothing like the graceful shifts she had seen during festivals. This was forced. Uncontrolled. Black fur pulled back. Limbs lengthened. The massive wolf form folded inward beneath flashes of silver light. Then silence returned. A man lay on the floor. Elowen stared. Broad shoulders. Dark hair. A scar across the left side. And silver-gold eyes opening slowly beneath exhaustion. Her breath stopped. Your Majesty? Cassian Veyr looked up at her. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then Elowen's gaze dropped to the familiar scar, to the black fur still caught in the blanket, to the half-eaten piece of honey cake near the hearth. Her mouth opened. "You ate old Grumble's cake." Cassian blinked. Of all the things he had expected, that had not been one. "Elowen, you ate it." "I was injured." "That is not a medical excuse for theft." Despite the pain, Cassian nearly laughed. Elowen did not. Her expression changed. Hurt replaced disbelief. "You knew." Cassian's humor disappeared. "You knew who I was every night." "Yes. And you let me talk to you." His jaw tightened. "Yes. You let me complain about the king." A pause. "Yes." Her cheeks warmed with horror. "I said you looked emotionally constipated." Cassian closed his eyes briefly. "I remember." Elowen stood. "That is humiliating." "You were not wrong." She stared at him. That almost ruined her anger. Almost. Cassian pushed himself upright, pulling the wool blanket around his shoulders. "I did not come to mock you." "Then why?" His expression became quieter. "I needed to know why my soldiers trusted you." Elowen looked toward the sleeping wolves. "And? I found the answer." She waited. Cassian's voice softened. "You never treated them like broken weapons." Something inside her chest tightened. "You could have asked me." "I did." "As the king." "Yes." That was different. Cassian knew it was. As king, every answer came polished. Careful, fearful. As Storm, he had heard Elowen sing badly while cleaning medicine jars. He had watched her cry quietly over a wolf she thought might die. He had been scolded for stealing bread. No one had done those things with Alpha King Cassian Veyr. Elowen folded her arms. "So the mighty Alpha King crawled into my kennel because he wanted honesty. And, Cassian looked at her. "My wolf did." "And you?" He hesitated. "I kept coming back." The room became very quiet. Fire cracked softly between them. Elowen felt that strange warmth beneath her ribs again. The same pull she had felt when their wrists touched. Cassian felt it too. His wolf stirred. "Mate." He forced the word down. Not yet. He would not use fate to trap a woman who had spent her life being told where she belonged. Elowen knelt again and examined his shoulder. "You still need treatment." Cassian looked surprised. "You are angry." "I am. And you are helping me." "You are bleeding on my floor." A faint smile touched his mouth. "There she is." Elowen pressed the salve against his scar. Cassian inhaled sharply. Her scent warmed. Pear. Honey. Time after rain. His wolf settled almost immediately. Elowen noticed. "You always calm down when I touch you." Cassian's eyes met hers. "Yes." Her hand stopped. Neither moved. Then trumpets shattered the night. 3 sharp blasts echoed from the citadel. Cassian stood immediately. Royal summons. A guard appeared at the door moments later. "Your Majesty, the Winter Oath ceremony has been moved to tomorrow morning." Cassian's face hardened. "By whose request?" The guard hesitated. "High Alpha Dacre." Elowen looked toward the 50 sleeping wolves. Cassian did the same. Then he understood. Garrick did not want the ceremony. He wanted the witnesses. And tomorrow, all 50 Royal Guard wolves would be brought into public view. By sunrise, Veyr Citadel had become a stage. Fresh snow covered the royal courtyard in a thin silver layer. Black and gold banners moved sharply in the mountain wind, while hundreds of wolves gathered beneath the tall stone walls for the Winter Oath ceremony. Bronze bells rang from the northern tower. 1. Endifo. 3. The sound rolled across the valley like distant thunder. Elowen stood near the bottom of the royal steps, wishing desperately that she were back in the kennels. Her gray cloak was clean. Mostly. She looked down and discovered a single strand of black fur still clinging to her sleeve. Storm. Or rather, Alpha King Cassian Veyr. Her cheeks warmed at the memory of the previous night. She had scolded a king for stealing honey cake. There were probably laws against that. Elowen. She turned. Lady Seraphine approached beneath an ivory cloak, surrounded by noble daughters dressed in silver and pale blue. Seraphine's gaze dropped immediately to the fur. Her smile sharpened. "Still sleeping with wolves?" A few women laughed. Elowen brushed unsuccessfully at the strand. "They are considerably better company." The laughter stopped. Seraphine's eyes narrowed. Before she could answer, trumpets sounded. Every head turned. At the top of the steps, Cassian appeared. He wore black ceremonial armor beneath a dark winter cloak. Silver traced the edges of his shoulders, and the crown resting against his dark hair seemed almost unnecessary. He already looked like a king without it. Elowen lowered her gaze. She could still remember him sitting half-covered in a blanket beside her fire. That made bowing unexpectedly difficult. Cassian took his place before the throne. His face revealed nothing. But the instant Elowen's scent reached him, his wolf stirred. Pear. Honey. Rain-soaked thyme. Mine. Cassian ignored the word. For now, High Alpha Garrick Dacre stepped forward. Before the royal guard is presented, one matter remains. Elowen's stomach tightened. Garrick unfolded a document. The Winter Kennels have failed to meet military standards for 6 consecutive years. Murmurs moved through the crowd. The animals house their consume royal resources despite showing little likelihood of returning to service. Animals. Elowen's hands curled beneath her cloak. Cassian's gaze turned cold. Garrick continued. Effective immediately, the facility will be reorganized. Elowen stepped forward before fear could stop her. They are soldiers. Hundreds of eyes turned toward her. Garrick smiled faintly. Did someone give the Kennel Omega permission to address the council? Elowen felt heat crawl up her neck. Seraphine gave a quiet laugh. She forgets herself often. Another noble spoke from somewhere behind her. Perhaps that is why no pack wanted her. The words landed hard. Then another voice added, "Unwanted once, unwanted still." Several people laughed. Elowen stared at the snow. For one terrible second, she was 16 again, standing beside a registry board, watching her name disappear, hearing whispers about the Omega whose wolf had never fully awakened. Then she remembered old Grumble trembling during thunderstorms, Blue Ear refusing food until she sat nearby, Storm sleeping peacefully beneath her hand. She lifted her head. I may be unwanted. Her voice shook once, then steadied. But they are not disposable. Silence spread. Cassian's hand tightened against his throne. Before he could speak, the eastern gates opened. Chains rattled. Boots struck stone. 50 Royal Guard wolves entered the courtyard. The crowd instinctively moved backward. They were magnificent even in their broken state. Silver wolves. Gray wolves. Dark wolves, scarred by battles no one remembered correctly. Elowen's breath caught. Old Grumble, the gray wolf at the front, stopped. A guard pulled lightly on his ceremonial chain. Torin did not move. His torn ear lifted. The mountain wind changed. Elowen's scent crossed the courtyard. Pear. Warm honey. Time after rain. Torin raised his head. Behind him, 3 toes froze. Then, Blue Ear. Then another. And another. The perfect military formation began to break. Garrick went pale. Control them. The handlers tightened the chains. Cassian stood. Release them. Your Majesty. Now. Locks opened. Chains fell. For several heartbeats, nothing happened. Then Torin walked toward Elowen. The crowd retreated. Elowen did not. The old gray wolf stopped 3 feet in front of her. She smiled through sudden tears. Hello, Grumble. Torin lowered his head. Then his front legs folded. Knelt. Elowen's smile vanished. Behind him, 3 toes did the same. Then Blue Ear. 5 wolves. 10. 20. The courtyard became so quiet that Elowen heard snow sliding from a distant roof. 30. 40. 50. Every Royal Guard wolf had turned toward her. Every head had lowered. Every scarred body knelt before the Omega the nobles had been laughing at moments earlier. A silver goblet slipped from someone's hand. It struck the stone. Clang. Elowen could not breathe. Seraphine stared in disbelief. Garrick looked terrified. Cassian descended the royal steps. Seraphine immediately straightened. For one hopeful moment, she believed he was approaching her. Cassian walked past. He passed her father, past the council, past every noble waiting for his attention, then stopped directly before Elowen. His silver-gold eyes moved over the 50 kneeling soldiers. Then back to her. Which one of you, he asked quietly, taught my forgotten soldiers that they were still worth saving? Elowen swallowed. I only took care of them. Something softened in Cassian's face. Exactly. Garrick stepped forward. This Omega has interfered with Royal Guard conditioning. She should be detained. Cassian moved before anyone else could. One step, he placed himself between Garrick and Elowen. His dominance rolled across the courtyard like winter thunder. "Touch her," Cassian said, "and you answer to your king." No one moved. Then behind them came a terrible cracking sound. Torrhen's body shuddered. His front paw shifted. Gray fur vanished. For one impossible second, a scarred human hand pressed against the snow. Gasps erupted. Torrhen lifted his head. His jaws trembled. A broken human voice came from the throat of the wolf. He. Garrick stepped backward. Torrhen's eyes locked onto him. "He poisoned us." For several seconds, no one in the courtyard moved. Torrhen's broken words seemed to remain suspended beneath the winter sky. "He poisoned us." High Alpha Garrick Dacre had gone completely still. Around him, nobles exchanged frightened glances, while the 50 Royal Guard wolves remained gathered near Elowen, no longer looking like dangerous animals. They looked like witnesses. Cassian turned slowly. "Take Dacre into custody." Garrick's face hardened. "On the word of a beast?" Torrhen growled. Elowen rested one hand against his neck. The sound stopped immediately. Cassian watched that small gesture. Then he looked back at Garrick. "On the testimony of my commander." Royal Guards stepped forward. Garrick's scent sharpened with anger. "You have no proof. Then you should have nothing to fear from an investigation." Cassian's voice was quiet. That made it more dangerous. Garrick was escorted away. Seraphine remained frozen beside the royal steps, all color gone from her face. Elowen barely noticed. Torrhen collapsed. She dropped beside him. "Easy, I've got you." Cassian knelt on his other side. "Bring every healer we have." This time, no one dismissed Elowen when she spoke. The royal wolves were moved into the eastern sanctuary before sunset. Elowen went with them. The sanctuary had once housed injured royal horses, but Cassian ordered it transformed within hours. Fires burned in every room. Fresh blankets covered the stone floors. Guards remained outside rather than surrounding the wolves with weapons. For the first time, the palace adapted to them, not the other way around. Elowen sat beside Torrhen through the night. Rain had replaced the snow, tapping gently against tall windows. The air smelled of wet pine, medicine, and smoke. Cassian remained nearby. He should have been questioning Garrick. He should have been meeting the council. Instead, he sat on the floor beside an omega and a gray wolf. No crown. No ceremonial cloak. Just Cassian. Elowen noticed. "You have a kingdom to run." "I delegated." "To whom?" "People who complain when I do not delegate." She smiled faintly. "That sounds healthy." "It feels unnatural." Torrhen suddenly stirred. His body tightened. Elowen leaned closer. "Grumble?" Cassian raised an eyebrow. She glanced at him. "I know his real name now. And yet, he has spent 6 years earning that nickname." Torrhen's paw shifted. Human fingers appeared. Then his forearm. Elowen held her breath. The transformation moved slowly this time. Fur receded. Bones reshaped. A scarred man in his late 40s collapsed onto the blankets where the wolf had been. Elowen froze. Torrhen Veyr opened his eyes. For several moments, confusion filled them. Then he looked at her. His voice was raw. "You never stopped talking." Elowen's eyes filled instantly. "You understood me?" "Every word." A laugh broke through her tears. "Oh, no." Torrhen managed the faintest smile. "Your singing was worse." Cassian looked away to hide his amusement. Elowen pointed at Torrhen. "You nearly died 3 times. You lost the right to criticize my singing." Torrhen's smile disappeared as memory returned. His fingers tightened around the blanket. "Silverthorn." Cassian leaned forward. "Who gave it to you?" "Supply wine. Before Black Hollow." "Dacre?" Torrhen closed his eyes. "He controlled the shipments." Cassian's expression hardened. "There were 50 of you." 53. Elowen went still. Torrhen looked toward the other sleeping wolves. 3 never made it here. Silence settled heavily. Torrhen continued. "We began losing human thought first, then speech, then the ability to shift." "Why were you reported dead?" Cassian asked. "Because dead soldiers cannot testify." Elowen felt cold despite the fire. Cassian rose. He now had motive, testimony, and 49 more witnesses waiting to remember. Later, after Torrhen finally slept, Elowen stepped into the palace greenhouse for air. Warm glass surrounded her. Moonlight silvered the leaves while the scent of damp earth and winter roses softened the night. Cassian followed. You should rest. So should you. I am king. That does not make exhaustion illegal. He looked at her. You speak to me differently now. I know you steal food. That does damage authority. She smiled. Then, the smile faded. Why did your wolf keep coming back? Cassian was silent for a long moment. My wolf knew something before I did. Elowen's heartbeat changed. Cassian stepped closer. My wolf knew you before I allowed myself to. The warmth beneath her ribs returned. This time stronger. Her scent deepened. Pear. Honey. Rain-soaked thyme. Cassian's wolf stirred. Mate. Elowen looked into his silver-gold eyes. Before either could speak, a sharp bitter smell slipped through the greenhouse vents. Her expression changed instantly. Cassian. He smelled it too. Silverthorn. From somewhere inside the palace. Then a wolf screamed. The first scream came from the eastern sanctuary. The second came from somewhere below it. Then 50 wolves began howling at once. Elowen ran. Cassian was beside her before she reached the greenhouse doors. The palace corridors had already filled with panic. Servants pressed themselves against the walls. Guards shouted orders. Somewhere ahead, glass shattered. The bitter scent grew stronger. Silverthorn. By the time Elowen reached the sanctuary, the room had become chaos. Blue ears slammed against a stone column. 3 toes clawed at the floor. Several wolves twisted beneath invisible pain, their bodies struggling between human and wolf form. Open the windows, Elowen shouted. A healer hesitated. Now. This time, he obeyed. Cold night air rushed inside. It was not enough. The poison was everywhere. Cassian staggered. Elowen turned. His hand gripped the doorway. Silver flashed beneath his skin. Cassian? Stay back. His voice sounded wrong. Too deep. Too strained. Then his control broke. Bones shifted. Black fur tore through his human form. A massive charcoal wolf crashed onto the stone floor. Guards immediately raised spears. No, Elowen shouted. Storm lifted his head. His silver-gold eyes were almost unrecognizable. A growl rolled through the sanctuary. The spear line tightened. Then Garrick's voice echoed from the upper balcony. Look at them. Elowen looked up. He stood beside an open ventilation grate, one hand stained with crushed silverthorn. Your precious Omega has corrupted the royal guard, entity. Cassian lunged. The guards braced. Elowen stepped between them. Lower the spears. Miss Reed. Lower them. Storm snarled inches from her. His claws carved white lines into the stone. Every instinct told her to run. She did not. Behind her, Garrick laughed. See, even the king cannot resist what she has done. For one terrible second, doubt entered Elowen's chest. What if he was right? What if her scent had not healed them? What if she had only delayed something worse? Then something touched her ankle. Old Grumble. Torin had shifted back into wolf form, trembling from the poison. Yet instead of attacking, he crawled toward her. He pressed his head against her leg. Elowen looked down. Recognition remained in his eyes. Her fear broke. No, she whispered. They remembered, even now. She turned back towards Storm. The black wolf paced once. Twice. His breathing came harsh and uneven. Elowen stepped closer. Cassian growled. She stopped. Not because she was afraid. Because she understood. He was fighting himself. She slowly lifted one hand. Storm. The growl broke. Only slightly. But it broke. His ears moved. Elowen's eyes filled. That's right. She took another step. Behind her, someone whispered her name. She ignored them. You stole my honey cake. Storm's breathing changed. You occupied half my floor. Another step. You pretended not to understand me. His silver-gold eyes flickered. The sanctuary seemed to disappear around them. There was only the scent of cedar smoke. Pear, honey, rain-soaked thyme, and 2 lonely creatures who had once shared a quiet fire. Elowen reached him. Storm's muzzle curled back. She placed her hand against the old scar on his left shoulder. Heat exploded beneath her palm. The mate bond opened. Not as a command. As recognition, pain flooded through her first. Years of sleepless nights. A crown that never became lighter. The terror of becoming dangerous to everyone he loved. Then beneath it all, loneliness. Elowen's breath broke. Oh, Cassian. The wolf shuddered. She pressed her forehead against his. Storm, she whispered. His growl faded. Come back to me. For one heartbeat, nothing happened. Then his enormous body lowered. Slowly, carefully, until the Alpha King's wolf rested his head against her chest. Across the sanctuary, one wolf stopped howling. Then another, Blue Ear, collapsed beside the wall, breathing peacefully. Three Toes lowered himself onto the floor. One by one, the 50 wolves followed. Their panic softened beneath the familiar scent that had carried them through 6 forgotten years. Garrick's smile vanished. Torin lifted his head. His body shifted violently. This time, when human form returned, he remained conscious. He pointed toward the balcony. He did it. Other soldiers began changing too. Broken voices filled the sanctuary. Dacre, Silverthorn, Black Hollow. The truth came back piece by piece. Guards turned toward Garrick. Cassian remained in wolf form beside Elowen as royal soldiers seized the High Alpha. For once, power did not need to roar. It simply stood revealed. Much later, when the sanctuary had finally quieted, Elowen sat against the hearth. Storm lay beside her. His great head rested in her lap. She stroked the dark fur between his ears. Then something warm moved through the mate bond. Not pain, not fear, one clear feeling. Home. Elowen lowered her head against his and cried. Spring came slowly to Verhold. For weeks, snow remained tucked beneath the northern pines, while thin streams of meltwater ran along the stone roads below the citadel. Then, one morning, the valley woke beneath pale sunlight, birdsong, and the scent of wet earth. The Royal Winter Kennels changed with the season. So did everyone inside them. Commander Torin had returned fully to human form. Three Toes, whose real name was Captain Rhys Calder, could shift for nearly 6 hours at a time. Blue Ear had recovered enough speech to complain about Elowen's cooking. She considered that excellent progress. You ate 2 bowls, she reminded him. That does not make it good. Torin laughed from across the table. Elowen pointed her spoon at both men. I preferred you as wolves. You talked more when we were wolves, Torin said. That was because neither of you interrupted. Warm laughter filled the restored sanctuary. Months earlier, the sound would have seemed impossible. Now it belonged there. High Alpha Garrick Dacre had been stripped of rank after the surviving royal guards testified before the council. Records from Black Hollow confirmed what Torin remembered. Silverthorn had been deliberately placed inside military supplies. Garrick had wanted Cassian's most loyal commanders gone. Dead men could not expose treason. Neither, he had believed, could wolves. He had underestimated memory, and he had underestimated Elowen. The council gathered one final time beneath the great vaulted chamber to determine what would become of the woman who had brought 50 soldiers home. Elowen stood before them, wearing a simple dark green dress. She hated every second of it. Cassian noticed. His mouth almost curved. You are enjoying this, she whispered. Immensely. I may leave. You will not. Very kingly. I practice. A council elder rose. Elowen Reed, because of your bond with His Majesty? No. The chamber went silent. Cassian looked toward her. Elowen swallowed. Her hands trembled, but her voice did not. With respect, I do not want a title because I belong to the king. A few counselors shifted uncomfortably. Elowen continued. If I am given something, I want it to be because of the work I did before anyone knew my name. Cassian's eyes softened. Before anyone could answer, Torin stepped forward. And then give her the work. The old commander turned toward the council. She kept the royal guard alive when the kingdom had already buried us. His scarred hand moved over his heart. I propose Elowen Reed become royal keeper of the guard. The room remained silent for only a moment. Then Rhys stood. Then, Blue Ear. Then, every recovered soldier in the chamber. One by one, hands pressed over hearts, Cassian rose last. Approved. Elowen looked at him. You did not even ask for a vote. I am improving government efficiency. She nearly laughed. Weeks later, Elowen moved into a small cottage beside the sanctuary. Not a palace suite. She had refused that too. The cottage had 2 windows, a crooked chimney, a herb garden, and enough space beside the fireplace for one very large wolf. Cassian discovered this immediately. He arrived one evening without guards, without a crown, just a dark coat and a paper-wrapped parcel beneath one arm. Elowen opened the door. "You're late. I am the king. You said 7. It is 7:10. Exactly." Cassian handed her the parcel. She opened it. Honey cake. Elowen raised an eyebrow. "For me? For Storm. Storm is spoiled. He has suffered greatly. He stole food. He was emotionally distressed." Elowen laughed. Cassian watched her quietly. That sound still did something to him. Maybe it always would. Later, they sat outside beneath a sky washed with stars. The valley smelled of pine, damp grass, and early blossoms. Cassian's hand rested beside hers on the wooden bench. Not touching. Waiting. "Elowen." She turned. His expression had changed. No teasing now. No king. Just the man beneath it. The bond chose before we understood it. Her heartbeat softened. Cassian continued, "But I will not let fate make this decision for you." He held out his hand. "The kingdom may someday ask you to become Luna." Elowen studied him. "And what are you asking?" His silver-gold eyes held hers. "For you to choose me." Silence stretched between them. Then Elowen placed her hand in his. "I already did." Months later, the Luna ceremony was held not inside the throne room, but in the restored courtyard beside the sanctuary. 50 royal guard warriors stood in 2 long rows. Human, alive. When Elowen appeared, none of them knelt. Instead, Torin placed one hand over his heart. The others followed. Elowen stopped. Her eyes filled. Once, people had called her unwanted because no pack had chosen her. Now 50 men honored her because she had chosen them when everyone else had looked away. At the end of the path, Cassian waited. No wolf between them. No secret. No fear. He offered his hand. Elowen took it, and for the first time in her life, she stepped forward without wondering whether anyone would allow her to stay. She finally understood something simple. Being useful was not the same as being loved. Being wounded was not the same as being worthless. And being unwanted by the wrong people had never meant she did not belong. Cassian squeezed her hand. His scent wrapped around her like cedar smoke and mountain air. Her own answered with pear, honey, and rain-soaked thyme. Across the bond came the feeling she knew best now. Home. This time, Elowen sent it back. So, this is where Elowen's story finally grows quiet. And if you're still here with me after all of that, I'm glad you stayed. Because beneath the wolves, the crown, and the mate bond, this was really a story about what happens when people misunderstand you, betray your trust, or decide your value before they ever truly know you. Elowen was hurt, but she never begged to be chosen. She was mocked, but she did not become cruel. And when staying small would have cost her dignity, she learned that walking away could be stronger than proving herself to people determined not to see her. That is a very ordinary kind of courage. You cannot control who judges you. You cannot force someone to understand your heart, but you can decide what you will accept, what you will protect, and when it is time to choose yourself again. And maybe that is what dignity really looks like. Not dramatic, not loud, just steady. If that word means something to you tonight, leave dignity in the comments. And if Elowen's journey stayed with you, a like, a share, or subscribing would mean more than you know.